Hello, let's take a look at what we are going to create for this project. We are going to create a color scheme switcher, and what that does, it enables you to change the background color of the page by clicking on any of the buttons. So if I click on this yellow button, the background color will change to yellow. If I click on this, it changes to blue. If I click on that, it changes to white. If I click on that, it changes to gray. So you can obviously select many more color scheme, but this is just a guide as to what the application will do. You can obviously add more colors to the scheme switcher. I'm going to create a directory on my desktop, so I'm going to right click on the desktop, click new folder, and I'm going to call this directory color switcher. Alright, so this is the name of my directory. Next thing I want to do is create the HTML file. I'm going to be using the Sublime text editor. So this is a blank file. I'm just going to save it as an HTML file. So I'm saving it inside this directory we created called color switcher, and I'm just going to call it color switcher.html. color switch.html, and I'll click save. I have already pre-staged the HTML file. I'm just going to add that in, and then I'll run through the code with you. So this is the HTML for the project. Line 1 is what is known as the doc type. The doc type basically is the first thing you indicate in an HTML5 document. What it does, it notifies the web browsers that the content of the document is an HTML5 document. So the actual HTML begins on line 2 and ends on line 25. So here we've got the head section. The beginning or the opening tag of the head section is on line 3, and the closing tag is on line 6. I missed out a bracket here, so I'm just going to add that. So now we have the opening head tag and the closing head tag. Inside the head tag, we've got a title. So this will be the title for the application. And here on line 5 is a reference to the external style sheet we are going to use. I've not created it yet, but when I do, I'm going to call it color switcher.css. The body tag starts from line 8 and ends on line 24. So anything inside the body tag is what constitutes the visible content of the application. So inside the body tag, we've got a h1 element. This will be used for the header or the title heading for the application. And we've got a UI. UI basically is an unordered list. So we've got an unordered list here and giving it an ID of switcher. And we've got various list items, and they've all got different IDs. So we've got list ID. This is a list, and the ID is gray button, ID white button, ID blue button, and so on. So we're going to use these IDs later in styling this list with CSS. Line 17 is just a paragraph tag that will just display this text here. Line 20 is a link to our external JavaScript. So we've got the opening script tag, we've got the source attribute. The source basically is used to specify where the external file is located, and the file is going to be located inside the same directory as the HTML file. Hence, all I have to do is just reference it by its name. So it's going to be called colorswitcher.js when I create the file. So we've got a link to our external style sheet on line 5 and a link to our external JavaScript on line 20. So that's basically the HTML. So I'm just going to click File and Save All. Let's take a look at what we have created so far by double clicking on the directory and clicking on this HTML file. So we've got the title, which is a h1 tag. These are the various list items. We are going to use CSS to make it look more presentable, and this here is the paragraph tag. So I have already made a reference to the external CSS inside the HTML file. So this is the link here. So now I have to create a file with this name. So I'm just going to copy the name just to save me time, and I'll go File, New File, and I'll do Save As, and it opens up the directory where I have the HTML file. I'm just going to paste that in and call it colorswitcher.css and click Save. So now I have a CSS file. So I have already pre-staged the CSS. I'm going to add that on and explain line by line. So let's do the CSS. So here I am styling the body tag which contains the actual body of the application. Margin here, I am using the M value, so I've set the margin to 3M. Padding 0, that means no. Font family, I'm using sans serif. When you're specifying font family, it's good to always specify more than one, just in case the first one is not available. It will default to the second one. So I can just do a comma and then type in Arial. Arial is a common font, so if one of them is not available, it will default to the second. So you can specify as many fonts you want inside your font family. For this, because this is a simple project, I'm just going to leave it as just one font. So I'm going to select the sans serif. The font size, I'm going to make it 18 pixels. Line height, this basically refers to the height of the text from the line above. So I'm making it 1.5. This is the heading tag, which is H1 here. So a lot of these here, for example, the H1, you can see the H1 here. I'm giving it a line height of 1.25. Margin, I'm using M values for the margins, and margins normally, when you apply a margin, you can apply it to the top, right, bottom, left. So those are the values. Paragraph, again, the margin for the paragraph, I'm giving it 5M. And again, when you apply margin, it's top, right, bottom, left. And here we've got the switcher, which is this here, which is the actual unordered list. And this is the values I'm giving it. I'm making it float to the left, giving it a width of 30 pixels, height of 30 pixels. These are the values for the margins, because there will be 4 margins, top, right, bottom, left. Border radius gives it a rounded edge, and the border, giving it a border of 3 pixels, solid black. So I want the border to be solid black. Border radius gives it like a rounded, it turns it in a way into a circle, so it gives it kind of like a circle shape. So depending on the values you specified for the border radius, so if you give it a higher pixel value, it turns it into a circle. So these are the various list items. The gray button, I'm giving a background color of gray, the white ID, background color of white, the blue, background color of blue, and so on. So that's basically the CSS done. So I'm going to do a file, save all, and then we can check it out, see how it looks. So I've opened up my directory. I'm going to click on the HTML file, and you can see here, see these rounded circles here is achieved due to the border radius. The border radius here on line 28 is responsible for these circles. Okay, that's what gives it its shape. So if I click on any of these, it would not work at the moment because I've not added the JavaScript functionality for the project. I have already got a reference to the JavaScript file inside our HTML, and I've called it colorswitcher.js. So now I have to create a file. So I'm just going to copy that name and go new and click new file. And I'm going to save this inside the same directory as the other two files. So I'm just going to paste the name in there. I'm going to call it colorswitcher.js and click save. So this file now will be a JavaScript file. You can see on the bottom right hand corner, it says JavaScript. I have also already got the code ready for this file here. I'm going to add that in and then explain as much as I can. So this is the JavaScript. So from line 1 to 4, we are referencing each of these IDs, which is these IDs here, this list items here. I'm referencing them here using the document.getElementById method, and I'm passing in the value of the ID inside that method. I'm also attaching a click event on click. So basically what this will happen when you click on each of the button, each of this here, if you click on the button relating to that, it will give you the corresponding functions. I've set that to equals to, these are the various functions. For example, if you click on this gray button, it will call the switch gray function, which means it will switch the color to gray. And here again, if you click on this white button, it will call the switch white function. So these are various functions that will be called when any of this list item is clicked on. So here from line 7 to 25 is where I've created the various functions that we are referencing in this upper part. So the first function here is the switch gray function. So basically what that does is that when you click on the list item, it will change the background color to gray, And here you can see it's got document.getElement by tag name. So the tag will be the body, that's the body tag, and the style will be white. So what that means is that it will change the background color of the body tag to gray, and also change any text that is on that page. It will change it to white. Okay, so that the colors contrast. So this function here is what we are referencing here when this gray button is clicked on. So we've attached on click event to it. So the functions are basically the same. They do the same thing. This basically, when you click on the white button here, it will change the background color to white and the color of the text to black. Same thing with the switch blue. It will change the color to blue, background color to blue, and the foreground, which is the color of the text, you change that to white. Similar thing to this function here, switch yellow. If you click on this button, it will change the background color to yellow and the actual color of the text to black. So these functions, they all do similar things. The only difference is the name of the function and also the background color the function changes. So that is basically the JavaScript functionality sorted. So I'm just going to click file and save all. If you don't understand any of these options, any of this part of the code, please do let me know. So I've got my project opened. I'm just going to run the HTML file, and that should enable us to test the application. So if I click on this, by clicking on this, the onClick method or event will be triggered, and it will call the relevant function that will switch the background color to yellow. You can see that. If I do the same with the blue, it calls the blue function to change the background white and gray. So we've got our application working as designed. Feel free to add more colors and experiment. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.